Excitement buzzed in the air as they approached the departure gate. Their tickets were snugly tucked into Timmy's pocket, and they eagerly anticipated the return to their cozy London abode. However, amidst the hustle and bustle of the airport, they inadvertently ended up at the wrong gate. The announcement came in a flurry of words they couldn't quite comprehend, and the realization struck them like a bolt of lightning. The flight crew was speaking French. They were on the wrong plane. As the engines roared to life and the aircraft began to taxi down the runway, Timmy, Binky, and Wiggy exchanged bewildered glances. Panic washed over them like a tidal wave. Where were they heading to? The answer soon became clear as the plane ascended into the skies above. They were bound for Geneva, Switzerland. Once the plane touched down in the picturesque city of Geneva, the three mischievous cats decided to make the most of their unexpected detour. They were in a new country, surrounded by the breathtaking Swiss Alps. Adventure beckoned, and they couldn't resist. With the determination only cats possess, they hopped onto a train heading to the Alps. The train journey from Geneva to the Swiss Alps was a picturesque and memorable experience for Timmy, Binky, and Wiggy. As the cats boarded the train, they were greeted by the comfortable hum of the locomotive and the soft rustling of fellow passengers settling into their seats. As the train chugged its way through the Swiss countryside, the cats were treated to breathtaking views of snow-covered mountains, serene lakes, and charming alpine villages. The windows framed scenes straight out of a postcard, with pine forests and quaint cottages passing by in a mesmerizing blur. Inside the train, they were met with cozy and warm seating, perfect for snuggling into during the journey. The gentle swaying of the carriages was oddly soothing, and the rhythmic clatter of the wheels on the tracks provided a comforting backdrop. Fellow travelers, both human and furry, seemed friendly and welcoming. Some passengers couldn't help but smile at the sight of three cats embarking on a mountain adventure. Timmy, Binky, and Wiggy, always the social felines, exchanged friendly nods with their temporary companions. As they got closer to their destination in the Alps, the cats began to spot skiers and snowboarders on the slopes through the train windows. Excitement bubbled within them, and they couldn't wait to step off the train and onto the snowy playground that awaited. Overall, their train journey through the Swiss countryside was a delightful prelude to their alpine adventure, offering them a taste of the stunning beauty and the warm hospitality of Switzerland. It was a journey that etched lasting memories in their hearts and paws, setting the stage for the escapades that lay ahead in the snowy wonderland of the Alps. The snowy peaks stretched out before them, an inviting playground for their escapades. They found shelter in a cozy ski lodge and were eager to take on a new challenge, skiing. Their ski instructor couldn't believe his eyes when he saw three cats eagerly donning ski gear. The felines might have been small, but they had enormous enthusiasm. The cats took their lessons seriously, tumbling and twirling down the slopes with a sense of wild abandon. It was a sight to behold as they conquered the snowy terrain, one paw at a time. After exhilarating days of skiing in the Swiss Alps, Timmy, Binky, and Wiggy would return to their cozy ski lodge as the sun dipped below the mountains, casting the alpine landscape in a soft, golden hue. Their evenings were just as memorable as their days on the slopes. The cats would often curl up by the lodge's crackling fireplace, basking in its warmth. They'd nuzzle together, purring contentedly, while the flickering flames danced in the hearth. The ski lodge's restaurant offered a delectable selection of Swiss cuisine. Timmy, Binky, and Wiggy would eagerly anticipate their evening meals, savoring Swiss cheese fondue, hearty stews, and warm milk served in tiny saucers, specially prepared for them. Sometimes, fellow lodge guests would share stories of their adventures on the slopes. Timmy, Binky, and Wiggy loved to listen, their eyes wide with wonder as they absorbed tales of daring descents and close encounters with mountain wildlife. On clear evenings, they would venture outside onto the lodge's balcony to stargaze. The alpine skies were a breathtaking sight, with countless stars twinkling overhead. The cats would silently watch shooting stars streak across the firmament. Occasionally, the lodge hosted live music nights with folk bands playing traditional Swiss tunes. Timmy, Binky, and Wiggy would tap their tiny paws to the music and sometimes even join in with their own enthusiastic, albeit unconventional, dance moves. The lodge had a selection of board games and decks of cards for guests to enjoy. The cats would engage in their version of these games, often playfully batting at game pieces or cards scattered across a table. On moonlit nights, the cats would sometimes sneak out for short nighttime adventures in the snow, exploring the winter wonderland under the glow of the moon. Their footprints would be the only evidence of their nocturnal escapades. Eventually, the cats would settle into their cozy beds in the lodge's charming rooms. They'd nestle close to each other, sharing warmth and companionship, and drift off to dreamland, where snowy slopes and Swiss adventures continued in their slumber. On one of the days, Timmy, Binky, and Wiggy decided to hit the slopes for what would turn out to be a hilariously memorable skiing adventure. The morning began like any other, with the cats eagerly strapping on their tiny skis and goggles, ready to conquer the mountains. As they descended the slopes, they encountered various challenges. Timmy, always the adventurous spirit, decided to attempt a daring jump. With a burst of feline agility, he launched himself off a small snowbank, only to end up face-first in a mound of fluffy powder. His muffled meows and snow-covered face left Binky and Wiggy in stitches. Not to be outdone, Binky decided to show off his skiing skills by attempting a graceful spin. However, his interpretation of graceful was more comical than elegant. He twirled wildly, flailing his paws, and ended up in a tangled mess of skis and fur. Timmy and Wiggy couldn't stop giggling as they helped him untangle himself. Wiggy, who had been the most cautious skier of the trio, suddenly had an idea to spice things up. He proposed a downhill race, promising to buy the winner a special treat from the lodge's restaurant. The competitive spirit ignited, and the three cats lined up at the top of the slope. As soon as they started, chaos ensued. Timmy, with his speed and agility, took an early lead, but his overconfidence got the better of him. He tried to show off with a dramatic leap but ended up tumbling head over paws down the slope. Binky, in his desperation to catch up, accidentally skied into a snowbank and vanished from sight. Wiggy, the self-proclaimed racing expert, was determined to win. But his strategy involved zigzagging wildly, narrowly avoiding trees and fellow skiers. His zigzags turned into somersaults, and he careened downhill like a fluffy snowball, trailing laughter and snow in his wake. Eventually, all three cats reached the finish line, albeit in the most ungraceful and comical fashion imaginable. They collapsed in a heap of laughter, realizing that the real treat was the hilarious adventure they had just shared. Their antics had not gone unnoticed, and a group of human skiers who had witnessed their race approached with amused smiles. They offered to take a group photo of the three adventurous cats, capturing their disheveled fur and contagious joy. That evening, back at the ski lodge, Timmy, Binky, and Wiggy regaled fellow guests with their misadventures on the slopes, complete with exaggerated gestures and theatrical reenactments. Their laughter echoed through the lodge, filling the cozy atmosphere with warmth and camaraderie. As they settled into their beds that night, tired but happy, they knew that their hilariously memorable skiing adventure would be a cherished story they'd share for years to come. It was a day when laughter echoed louder than the howling winds of the Swiss Alps, and their spirits soared higher than the mountain peaks they had conquered. 3 days in the Alps was enough to satisfy their adventurous spirits, and they decided it was time to head back to Geneva Airport for their journey home to London. As they landed in London, the familiar sights and sounds of the city brought comfort to their hearts. Home, sweet home, was finally within reach. But fate had one more twist in store for Timmy, Binky, and Wiggy. As their plane taxied to the gate, they couldn't help but notice a massive, imposing aircraft parked nearby. It was the largest commercial aircraft they had ever seen, an Airbus A380 belonging to Singapore Airlines. Curiosity got the better of them, and they decided to embark on yet another impromptu adventure. Who could resist the allure of visiting Singapore? They quickly scurried off the plane they had boarded for London and made their way to the Singapore Airlines gate. With their tiny passports in hand, they managed to charm their way onto the flight bound for the exotic city-state. The thought of exploring Singapore's vibrant culture, delicious food, and iconic landmarks excited them beyond measure.